and I will be talking only about a little aspect of my work, because I could talk about aquaculture, about the physiology of fish and other things, but I will talk only about a little thing. And I hope that this little thing can lead to some cooperation, for example. So I would like to share my screen. So I will be talking about assessing the status of exploited tropical fish population, the challenge and the solutions. I, I will start by defining what a fishery is. A fishery is the locus of interaction between fish, a resource, can be aquatic invertebrates or fish, at a certain place with a certain fishing gear deployed by fishers and resulting in catches. That's what a fishery is. And the fisheries, the theory of fishing has been developed mainly in high latitude countries where fisheries are concentrated on just a few species. Stock assessment, what are they? They are procedures used to evaluate the impact of fishing on exploited fish population, uh, notably by estimating the way the biomass has changed. You want to you want to assess how the fishing and the fishery impacts on the biomass of the fish. And the challenge then are that in the tropics, the fisheries generally are multi-species fisheries. This is true for the trawl fisheries. This is true for the artisanal fisheries inshore, uh, and very little is known about each species. Not because the scientists don't work, but because there are far more species than they can handle. Whereas in high latitude countries, you have a few species representing 80% of the catch, 2 or 3 species. This is obviously not so in India. And another issue is that the fish in the tropics do not have annual markings, they which enables the ages and the growth or mortality of high latitude species to be assessed using age structured model. Just a second. Sandra, can you bring me water? Thank you. Water. So, also, most tropical countries do not have the means to conduct regular at-sea survey to assess the stock by fisheries independent method. So this has been big challenges for countries such as India or neighboring countries. Now, the first response to the challenge of that this pose has been the development of length-based method, and where the length substitute for age. And I have participating in the development of this methodology. And one method that was developed in the early 80s is called ELEPHAN, electronic length frequency analysis, which is commonly used in India by Indian colleagues. And in fact, I I show you this old picture. This is the first time I came in India. I'm somewhere at the bottom of the picture. This picture was made of the participants and the trainers, most of whom came from Denmark, but actually we taught mainly elephant and length frequency analysis method. And this is this picture is historic. Yeah. Now, India has reliable catch statistics. This is not the case for many countries in Asia, but through the random sampling program that has been conducted along the Indian coast, India has more reliable statistics than many countries in Asia. So India has time series of catches by species that can be used for assessment. This is from our website, where we have reconstructed the catch that countries report to FAO. Reconstruction is a process of checking that everything is included. And India, um, uh, the correction for India is very small. This is in the added catch is mainly discarded fish that is not used, and a few fisheries that are not taken into account officially. Other countries have much bigger correction, and the correction for the average correction for the world as a whole is 50%. So India is doing well in this context. Now, this the method that I will talk about was developed by my friend Rainer Froese in Germany and colleagues, and it has been applied uh, many to many stocks in the world, including in India and by Indian colleagues. Now, the the method is very simple, and it has only two parameters. One of them is the growth rate of a population, and the exponential rate. And this Malthus, who has a bad reputation for some of his views, is the first to have used this kind of notation, and the first to have calculated an exponential rate of growth. It applied to the human population in North America, and this estimate was 2% per year, and it was quite correct, and it opened a new avenue in research on demographics. Now, the second important step was the realization that growth of population is not endless, and the growth of population, of animal population, is limited by something called carrying capacity. You can grow, but as you approach carrying capacity, the growth rate of the population is diminished, and this is the growth rate in number, for example, is diminished by a term 1 minus nt over carrying capacity, and this in graphically looks like this. So a population that invades a new empty space will grow, and at some point it will cease growing, and at half, when the population is about half, the growth rate is maximum. Now, what does it mean? The This scientist Schaefer from the US replaced the numbers in the population by the biomass. In other words, the carrying capacity is now a biomass that is called BO or B infinity, and the growth rate of population is still there. And what you get is you can define a maximum sustainable yield from that, which is reached at half the biomass, the unexploited biomass. And in fact, if you know the growth rate of population, the intrinsic growth rate, the carrying capacity times the growth rate divided by 4 is your maximum sustainable yield. But how do you estimate maximum sustainable yield? How do you estimate the population growth rate? How do you estimate the carrying capacity? In the countries, in high latitude country, in the US, in England, in Germany, and so on, they use age models where the age of population is known, and they sample the population with ships, which is very expensive. And they get then, that is a summary of the method. you can see the population growth rate in the upper graph, and the population growth rate is actually the line is in red, and this red line, if you plot it against the biomass, gives you the yield curve of the Schaefer model with MSY, maximum sustainable yield, at the biomass at half of the unexploited stock. Now, the method that I advocate, that I will suggest Indian scientists use much more, is called CMSY. Basically, it assumes that if you know carrying capacity, which is called K, and if you know the catch, and if you know R, then you can predict one biomass, and you can predict from the biomass you have now, the biomass of the next year. So basically, this equation is a summary of the whole model. But how does it work? It works like that. You assume, you guess a value of biomass, of unexploited biomass, and growth rate. And you have a catch in red. And for each year, you subtract this catch from the biomass that you assume, and you let the population grow according to the biomass times the population growth rate. The next year, you do that again. You reduce the biomass by the catch, and you grow the population by the population growth rate times the biomass. And basically, if you have a small catch, the population will remain stable. But if your catch increases, and you can say in this example, in the 80s it increased, what you reduce, what you take away from the stock, cannot be compensated for, and then it declines. The biomass declines. And if you go back to the same catch that you had before, at that point, the biomass is not big enough to sustain that catch, and it continues to decline. So how do you get that? Well, basically, you start with a catch, and for a range of K value, for a range of a wide range of carrying capacity and growth rate, you project thousands and thousands and thousands of trajectories. Given the catch, given a choice of R and K, given the growth rate and the carrying capacity, and you do that 10,000 times. This method could not be used in the past because we could not do 10,000 times calculate such time series, but now we can do it in 1 minute. And when we do that for all possible combination, for a wide range of combination, we'll find that the biomass in most cases, in most combination, is going extinct. The fish go extinct because the carrying capacity is too small, or the growth rate is not big enough to sustain the catch. And you end up with a small zone of possible realization, of possible trajectory. And the red cross indicates them in the panel C. And from that, you have an R and K that allows you to draw a model of the biomass, exploitation rate, and the Schaefer model that you want to get. Now, you can then express the fate of the stocks. It should be in the green, and mostly it ends up in a red for most countries. Now, does it work in practice? Well, here's a time series of from India, from the west coast, west coast, and you can see here there was a low catch in uh, in the uh, in the 30 years, that first the data for which we have data, and then in the mid 80s the catch began to increase, and that is run through this model, and it shows that basically the catch that was before was not enough to reduce the population a lot, but when the catch increased, it reduced the population and below the MSY level. And then when it in 2010, when the catch declined, it still didn't was too high, because in the meantime the biomass has been reduced. Now the catch data are halfway reliable. I was mentioning that in India you have reasonable catch data. So basically, you need mainly catch time series over time. You don't need a measure of effort. However, if you have additional data, if you have information on on uh, on the growth and mortality of the fish, then you can reduce the range of R and K that you have to search in, and you can use FishBase. FishBase is this database of fish that I mentioned previously, and or you can use assessment that have been done by other people, and you can reduce the uncertainty around your assessment by looking at related species or earlier assessment, and basically, if you know what kind of fish you have, you can see what kind of population growth rate you're likely to have. You can do that in FishBase for any fish. You will have this information about resilience, which is an indication of the growth rate of population, or sea life base for invertebrates. What does it allow you to do? It allows you to constrain a bit the solution. So basically, this was a short presentation to present to you a method that every stock assessment person, every fishery scientist can easily applied, because easily applied in India and elsewhere, because the time series of catch about of 20 years or more are available for lots of species, from state fisheries department, or the union territories fisheries department, and so on. We will send anybody who is interested the software you need to do that. It runs on a laptop. It's done in a few minutes actually, and the papers that have been produced, the scientific papers that have been produced about this method, and that can be used for more. We have applied this method to over 2,000 stocks in the world, and our colleagues even have used them for uh, for 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 stock assessment in various countries, even in China, which doesn't have good statistics, but our Chinese colleagues have dug up statistics to which they have applied it to 60 stock or so. Our database, our website has lots of assessment for India, and we have done them. but it should be Indian scientists who do them and who improve on them, because they will have better local knowledge. That's what I want to prevent. Again, I could have talked about aquaculture, fisheries development, subsidies, and so on, but I wanted to tell you about this method called CMSY because it is empowering. It makes it possible for colleagues who feel, who think that a mountain of data is needed for stock assessment. Um, it's not the case. You don't need a mountain of data, and you don't need a special training of that last years. And if you use this technique, you, in a sense, you can provide assessment to your government. And so if your government doesn't want to listen, at least you have done no job. So that is what I wanted to present. It's probably less than my 25 minutes, but so it is. Thank you very much.